All right, in this video, I'm going to tell you how a random forest works. Previously, we talked about the decision trees, and one of the challenges of the decision tree is the fact that it overfits the training data, especially if you do not specify a maximum depth for your tree. What is going to happen is that your decision tree is going to end up having leaves with a size of 1, meaning that it basically is going to memorize every observation in your training data set, having a precision of 100%. But because it has overfit your training data set, it is going to underperform on the test data. So random forest is an approach to address this challenge, and they are going to achieve this by two strategies. The very first one is to train based on different data sets, and the second one is to train based on different features. Once a random forest creates many distinct decision trees based on distinct data sets and distinct features, it is going to use the consensus of all those trees, a term that is known as soft voting, to figure out the final result for the classification. Let's go into each of these strategies one by one. What do we mean by saying different training data set? Well, this is done by bootstrap sampling, which refers to sampling with replacement from the original data set. Here is a visualization about it. Suppose that you have a data set. This is the training data set that only has 4 observations. These are blue, orange, green, and red. Now, if you run a sampling with replacement and tell the computer to choose 4 observations from this data set with replacement, what is going to happen is, for example, it is going to choose the blue one, then puts the blue back, and then choose another one. And it turns out to be blue again, and then green, and then red. This is your first sample from this sample, right? So it is going to include observations from the original data set. The difference is that some observations may be repeated, and as a result, because the size of the sample is equal to the original size, some of the observations will not be included in the data set. In this particular example, orange is not included. Then we repeat this. Another sample may be, red, orange, red, orange, right? These are all from the original data set. So the very first thing that in random forest is done is that we create many bootstrapped samples from the original data set and then train the decision trees on each of these samples differently, right? So what happens is that we are going to be training our data set on different training data set, therefore the results are going to be different. Now, the other strategy is to limit the number of the features that each tree can use in order to split the data sets into. And we can say if suppose that the original number of features in our training data set is capital N, that we randomly choose a smaller subset of those capital N, here shown by a small n, and tell the tree to train itself only based on those limited data sets. Now, this is a very simple example of how decision trees, this is going to be the last one. So when we say the consensus of all trees are used in order to figure out the final result, it means that once each of these trees in a random forest are trained on a different data set with different set of features, each of them is going to predict the probability for each class. Once we have the probabilities for all class, we're simply going to take the average of those probabilities. And here is an example. Suppose that we have this picture and we want to say whether or not this is a cat, right? Is this a cat or a dog, right? And suppose that a random forest only includes 2 trees. In reality, it includes many more, right? So the first tree uses a sample set of training data and comes up with a probability of 80% for the class of cat and 20% for the class of dog, right? The next tree says that class of cat is only 60% probability, whereas there's 40% probability that this is actually a dog. The soft voting means that we have to take the average for each class. So for the cat, it would be the average of 60% and 80%, which is 70%. And the dog class would be the average probability of the dog class among the two decision trees, which is going to be 30%. Therefore, the random forest result for the classification would be cat by 70% and dog by 30%.